Getting to know you, getting to know all about you.
The King and I. If I can really be honest here, I don't really know that much on The King and I. Of course, I know that there's a book, I know that there's a famous musical made by Rodgers and Hammerstein, and I know about the movie that was made during the 50s, but I haven't really read or seen any of them. The closest thing I had growing up is actually this animated feature. And by saying that, I'm sure that there's a lot of people watching this who feel really sorry about me. So let's consider this a review from the point of view of someone who has no background of the original source material. But is this film able to stand tall like the King of Siam? Or am I really an idiot for watching this film instead of that one? Let's find out. The story. Now, before I go analyzing this, I just need to talk about the fact how this movie is universally hated because of how inaccurate and disrespectful it is to the original source material, which in this case is the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. I just want to point out that we're talking about an animated musical here. No matter who's it from or how the movie is, they've always been known to be completely different to the point that they butchered how it was originally told, rather it be from a fictional book or an event that happened in real life. I mean, if you look at the animated films of Disney, they've been notorious to always add in some side characters or take away some dark elements just so it could be more appropriate to the big screen. Yet, most of the time, they end up being even more popular than the source material itself. Yes, I know Kralahome is not an evil wizard, but neither was Rasputin, and yet nobody complained about his role in Don Bluth's Anastasia. You see, this is why I often don't go look or read where the movie originally came from. I judge a movie by how it is as itself, and not as an adaptation. Now with that said and done, let's go back to the movie story, which after all I've said about being an adaptation doesn't matter, it's not all that great. I can see how it's trying to tell the tale of Anna Leonowens and how she tries to teach the royal children under the ruling of the King of Siam, which in itself works pretty well. It can be a little harsh to prove how Western culture is superior to the Eastern one, but it's interesting enough to watch along with the relationship between Anna and the king. But it often gets out of focus with the subplots that doesn't really serve anything to the main story. Now, I know I said that I haven't seen any of the previous adaptations, but I would know when it feels like they've obviously added some parts just for this movie, like all the comedy bits are just subpar slapsticks that are rarely funny, and the romance between the prince and the servant girl feels pretty forced, like the filmmakers have to find a way to cram that in somewhere in the movie. And that's the biggest problem with this film. It's that for some reason, they think that the main plot is not good enough and they try to make it more interesting with the comedy and romance, when in reality, it just delays the movie and makes the audience less interested with the characters and the situations that they're in. What they had with the main plot works well enough, it's just what they gave us extra that doesn't. The animation. Whether you like it or not, you can't deny that they did a pretty good job with the animation. What stands out the most here has to be the backgrounds. Not only does it give out some beautiful details, but also thanks to the vibrant colors and the interesting shapes of the palace itself, it really captures the Siamese environment and architecture. With the character designs, sure there's a bit of some Disney influence in there and you can see it more on Anna, but it's different enough to distinct its own style to have both the feeling of the familiar and the new. I wouldn't say that the character animation is top-notch like Disney or Don Bluth quality, since they are trying to capture more realistic movements with their characters, but it is decent enough for an animated feature, and it is at its best during the musical numbers. Plus the fact that they incorporate some computer animation onto this, and it surprisingly blends very well to the movie. This is a feat that sometimes even the best animation studios fail to achieve. However, not everything is perfect with its looks. For starters, there seems to be no lighting at all on the characters, which is a big problem since they all look completely flat and there's no sense of depth in them. But what really bothers me the most is that there are times when the animation looks unfinished, like there are times they look like they would freeze from pose to pose. Sometimes it only happens for a second on an extra that's on the side, but then there are times when it can be obviously in front of the screen. But regardless, even if people hate every single ounce of it, they can't hate on the animators who were just doing their job. And a good one at that too. The characters. Like I mentioned in the story, whatever counts in the main plot are the more interesting ones, while the ones who don't are not even worth remembering. First, there's Anna Leonowens, the English school teacher who went to Siam from the orders of the king. She's an interesting and complex character where, even if she disagrees with how the king rules with his traditional beliefs and it can really get on her nerves, she still has the heart to help him out and his kids to show the proper ways of Western culture. Then there's the King of Siam himself. Although interested in modern science to revolutionize the world, he still believes in ruling Siam with the old ways. There are times we can see a charismatic side of him, interested with Anna's ways of living and teaching, but often he can be passed on as a ruthless jerk who likes to abuse his power and rub it on Anna's face. Kind of mean, yes, but not a completely hateable character. But then there's Kralaholm, the main antagonist of the film who wants to dethrone the king to take his place with his evil magic. Honestly, he's a terrible villain. Not only is he trying to be a ripoff of Scar from The Lion King, but his plans and magic always gets foiled, so he's just passed on as stereotypically bad and non-threatening. There's Prince, Cthulhu Longhorn? Anyways, he's just meant to serve the Aladdin ripoff romance plot where, even though it's forbidden, he's in love with this servant girl who's as useless as,
An object, like rug given to king.
Exactly! He's basically in love with a rug. Then there are the comedic sidekicks, who seem to be everywhere and useless to the plot, which includes the King's Panther, that elephant, not Abu, Lewis, and Master Little. Although Lewis is not a comedy relief, he is as useless as them, and I will confess that there are times that Master Little made me chuckle a bit. He is, however, entirely pointless. In order to see the interesting characters of the movie, you have to go through the annoying, useless ones first, which may not be fun at all. The songs. There are a lot of things where this movie would screw up on. Filling the plot with useless comedic bits, or having some unfinished animation, or even have a ton of animal sidekicks is one thing, but messing up the musical numbers is probably the stupidest thing you can ever do to this movie. I'm not saying that the songs themselves are bad. In fact, they're actually well executed on their own. It's just sometimes the visuals don't even match to what they're singing in the first place. Songs like Getting to Know You or A Puzzlement decided not to show the singing characters how they are or how they feel, but show the funny Buddha man or the silly panther get themselves in wacky situations. Sometimes in songs like Shall We Dance or I Whistle a Happy Tune would really be far-fetched with what they show us. Rather it be Anna dancing with a ghost or killing off a dragon with a cheerful and upbeat song. Is this a freaking real thing? That's like killing off the Maleficent dragon by singing Hi-Ho!
Hi-ho, hi-ho, it's home from work we go. Hi-ho, 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 hi-ho.
I know this should probably be an issue I should talk about on the animation, but it really does affect how we listen to the song if what we see doesn't coordinate with what we listen. I mean, come on, this is Musicals 101 here. It does happen though when the visuals do match with what the characters are singing, like Hello Young Lovers and Shall I Tell You What I Think of You, and they're actually really well made. Nothing exaggerated or random comedic bits interfering, just something that focuses on the song itself without taking things too far. It's not the songs themselves, it's the visuals that complement the songs that have some problems.
Getting to know you, getting to know.
This really could have been something great. If the film was handled a bit better, this would have been one of the great non-Disney animated musicals of the 90s, alongside The Prince of Egypt and Anastasia. But as it is, The King and I is just a weak movie. What seems to be from the original Rodgers and Hammerstein musical is done pretty well, and there is some nice work on the animation, but what changed or added for the movie, like the comedic elements or the romance or whatever, was horribly done and almost ruins the experience. I'd only recommend this to those who enjoy animated musicals, and I don't mean just the ones by Disney, to give it a watch on YouTube. If you've seen or read any of the previous adaptations of The King and I, then it would be best if you don't touch this. Like, ever. If you do want to see it though, just pretend this is not The King and I. The similarities between this and the musical are just pure coincidence. Hey guys, this is AniMat. I know that some of you are probably a bit disappointed that I didn't smash it into smithereens, but I'll be honest, it really does help if you don't really know much about like the other like King and I movies and like the other adaptations and stuff like that. So, you know, I might have been a little bit nice, maybe, but all in all, as a movie in itself, it's not that bad. It's not the worst thing ever. But with all that done, let's pick the next animated film in the animation hat. And if you guys have an animated film you would like to suggest for me to do a review, then write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. So, let's see the next one. Yeah, come on. Yeah. Oh, got it. Okay, we got this. So, the next review shall be... Oh my god. Oh, whew. Well, this is gonna be a serious one. Well, sorry kids, I don't think you can watch this one because this is gonna be a little more serious and a bit of a documentary. And with this, we're going to war.